Hey everybody, what's up? It's Tipping the Scales. I'm Shay Dawson.
I'm Tania Rivers, also known as T.
Also known as LaShayla.
Or sweet, you know what? What about sweet tea? How does that sound? I like that.
I like that too.
All right, you know what? Tippers, listen. Tania, scratch, she's out. Let's go.
Sweet tea?
Yeah, let's go with sweet tea. I like that.
That's good.
Sometimes sweet is a little sour, but let's go with sweet
Sometimes
tea.
your shit is a little sour. That's okay.
100%.
All right.
What's
up?
So, first of all, before we even go into our lovely topic of the day,
Yeah.
how cool is it that we're in person?
It is
I'm seeing your
phenomenal.
lovely, beautiful face.
Like the energy
gazing into my eyes.
No, literally. It's like looking in the mirror.
Oh. I know.
It's crazy.
We just nauseous. I know. You're
yeah,
right.
like
my stomach hurts.
being in Philly, where it all started,
Yeah.
where our relationship started, where our friendship started, our
Where
sisterhood,
I'm from.
where you're from,
Yeah. Where your fiance
where my fiance is from.
Big deal.
You know, my other side of the family, some of my amazing best friends who are here in the studio with us.
Woo woo.
We are at Immortal Vision Studios. Shout out to my boy CJ Wolf. Thank you for letting us use your space.
Yeah.
The CJ over here.
We love it.
Yes, Black-owned business. CJ's literally in his 20s doing amazing things. This is actually his second studio. So shout out to entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs out there.
Or those who are self-employed.
Yeah, well, CJ's not here and his company's running, so this is an entrepreneur.
So we want to shout out them both.
Venture.
So listen, and if you guys want to know the difference, make sure you check out our episode
with Nisa Coates.
Okay. She breaks it down for you.
Self-employment, entrepreneurship, and curating your own life. So
yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So listen, today I feel like is a very important topic. I say that all the time. When it slipped out of my mouth, I'm like, damn.
We always say that, okay. But it's true.
But this one is.
We don't say topics that are important. Yeah, literally.
I know. So. But this one I feel is ever so needed, especially when you think about where we are in our climate today. Today is about forgiveness, the power of forgiveness, how we need to be just a forgiving nation, a forgiving body, forgiving people. Yes. And oftentimes we get so set in our emotion, or you may be bitter. It could be anger. It could be fueled by a lot of different things. But I think what's most important is being able to forgive someone who may have hurt you, so that way you can get the healing that you need. Because if you can't forgive, you can't heal, you can't move forward.
Man, this is a deep one, because I'm thinking about so many situations and times when I had to forgive, and even forgiving people who don't know I've forgiven them.
Yeah.
But in my heart I've forgiven them, and they don't hold that that disdain that I had or held for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think about jobs that I've had. I think about friends. I don't have many friends that aren't my friends anymore. Mm-hmm. Maybe a few, but I would say the transition even from that is just like we grew apart, life's changes, stuff like that. But it never like we're not going to be each other's friends anymore because someone has done something to me. But when I think about forgiveness, I think about holding on to an idea of how I want someone to respond to me. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes that's where we get misconstrued with, or how you have conflict in the first place. It's like, I don't believe you did what I needed you to do for me to be okay.
Yeah. It's
kind of like a selfish thing.
It's very personal, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's when I think about like how I think about things now, I'm like, I have to give people grace to not have so many conflicts, because you also have to realize people have different backgrounds. People come from different places and handle and execute things differently than I would. Yeah. And so I can't expect myself from other people. So that's what I think about when we're talking about forgiveness. Yeah. And we can go into storytelling, but that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great way to think about it. And I don't know about you, but there has been, when I think about throughout my lifetime, there has been individuals who definitely hurt me. Like when I think back to just my relationship with my father, there was just forgiveness that needed to be made. I think he was like over the top. I thought he was just too hard. I thought that he could have showed love differently. I thought he let our family down in many different ways. Right. And, I think it's like I'm a work in progress, because I think what that happened to, like, it hardened me.
Yeah.
You know, like when I talk about having that hard exterior. Now, granted, that hard exterior has helped me in my life a lot. It's helped propel me to be the executive that I'm in today, that I am today.
Yeah.
It has helped me be able to, you know, be 19 years old and have a child, and both of us have been very much great success stories. It's that grit, it's that hard exterior that has helped me get to where I am today. So for that, I am thankful. But I do think love is more than just hardness. I think it's those soft, quiet moments that you need from a parent, that shows compassion. And I don't felt like my mother is wonderful. So shout out to my mom. I don't talk about her enough, but I've had, a wonderful mom.
Yeah.
I love you, Antonia. She has very been comforting, just loving.
Yeah.
But, you kind of need that from both of your parents, in my opinion. And I didn't get that. So that has definitely made me rough and tough. And it took me years to forgive. And the unfortunate part about it is, if you ask me what I would have done differently, is I would have said I should have forgave a lot sooner.
Yeah.
It took me too damn long to forgive, because he was in a hospital bed. And I thank God that I did forgive him, because 2 days later he died.
Yeah.
So I would have been distraught and devastated if I would not have forgiven him. But I would say, in hindsight and looking back, I just wish I would have forgave him sooner. Like, look, guys, life is so short. It is very unpredictable. We don't know how long we're going to be on this earth and what our journey is going to look like. So because of that, you never know. So if there is someone that you have discord with in your life, you have to forgive them. Like, yes, people hurt, but you have to be able to forgive, especially if not for that person, for yourself, because you can't move forward. Again, you can't heal until you forgive. And many of us think that we can do the deep work, that grunt work, that hard shit that you have to do in order for you to get cleansed. You can't get that cleansing until you forgive the person who has hurt you. Kind of like whoever put that dirt on your ass, you need to forgive that person so you can get washed and cleaned up.
Yeah.
I'm an analogy person.
I know. And you paint a good picture. And I like when you do that. But I would say, and forgiveness doesn't always have to look like, I forgive you, let's hang out again, because sometimes even when you forgive, you can't forget. And sometimes when you forgive, you have to forgive for yourself and not for that person.
Yeah.
But I also do think that it's an act of love when you do forgive for that person, to let them go or let them be free. And anytime I've ever had to break up with anyone, because breakups are painful, I wanted to give context. I wanted to give reasons why. I wanted to give things that maybe
that's the Shay Dawson
think
experience.
that couldn't that could be changed, or that could be elevated, or it could be looked at differently. Because I know how I felt when people broke up with me and ostracized me. And I thought, is it just so hard to say, I had great experience with you. Actually, maybe there's nothing wrong, but maybe we're just growing apart. What's wrong with giving someone that closure?
Yeah.
And I thought that's a gift. And so when I was able to give that to someone else, and that person able to say, like, man, like, thank you for that, it was big. And I also actually experienced that when, someone I was dating basically said, I'm not able to be faithful, and I don't want to hurt you. And I just want to share that. Like, and literally in that moment, I told him, I was like, thank you. I appreciate that. And we've been friends since, and like, the love was never lost, but the love evolved into something else. You know what I'm saying? And so I think forgiveness is just a powerful tool.
Oh yeah.
But in order to have forgiveness or to open that up, you have to do a lot of self-work.
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
you got to be in control of your emotions, and you have to understand yourself. And I always talk to you about that. Is like, you can't stop reacting a certain way until you understand why you react that way.
Yeah, love
right?
that.
And so you gotta, because you have to have those conversations with yourself when you get stung, or you get shot, or you get, those sharp words happen to you, or something you know, information you receive, you literally have to have a conversation with yourself in that moment and go through your training, whatever deep work you've done, and say, in the past, I reacted too abruptly and I hurt someone's feelings. Like, you have to literally say this in your head, and it didn't end well. And it didn't end well. So this time I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to say, thank you for that information. I just need a minute to go.
Let me
think about this and let me process
this.
This is not a goodbye. This is not, but I just need to handle this.
I need to, take some time and let it sit in.
Exactly. And then you start to train, you start to understand that. And then it's less forgiveness because it's more communication.
Yeah.
So,
I
think that's kind of where I'm at.
And I think too, when I think about forgiveness, because I understand that, okay, if I want to move past whatever this is, I need to forgive. If I want to, have a relationship with someone who maybe has hurt me, and I think it's important for them to be in my life because they should be there.
Yeah.
That I forgive. But I think what forgiveness also reminds me of as a human is just to treat people better. And I think that's something that if we all think about doing that a little bit more than what we are today, because we're all so busy. We're also caught up in our day-to-day and our hustle and our grind. And we just forget about just being honest, just good human beings.
Yeah.
And I read this book before. It's called Leadership and Self-Deception. Very good read. But what it talks about is treating people, like humans, opposed to like objects, because oftentimes we treat folks like objects.
Transactions.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when you stop and you think about like how, you ask yourself, am I treating this person? Am I treating this person right now like a human being or like an object? Like, you have to play that out to better understand, who you are. And not only that, just you have expectations. You think about something as simple as the golden rule. But that goes a very long way. And I don't know about you, but it's just I want to put out good things in this world. I want to give good energy. I want to be the light that others can see. So then perhaps if I can shed more love, if I can shed more light, if I can be a better person, then perhaps those around me can see that goodness and want to give it back in this world as well.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good point. And we were talking about this earlier with Trish, but like maybe sometimes giving is about self, right? It is a selfish thing.
Yeah, it is.
And being selfish for good reason, what's wrong with that, right? So if part of what I do is like, I need to give to people so that I can feel good. So I can understand, like,
giving fills you up.
It fills me up.
Yeah.
It gives me meaning. It gives me purpose. And so understanding that give and take, and that understanding that when I give, someone else also receives, but it's a reciprocal thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I lessen the amount of times that I either have to forgive or someone needs to forgive me. And also just the deeper communication that you have non-verbally, right? By carrying out a great act or doing something that someone didn't expect you to do. Even when you do mess up and saying, I know you're upset and I know I upset you. That wasn't my intention, but this is my gesture to make it right. And sometimes that person might not come around at that moment.
Yeah.
But
sometimes
people remember how you make them feel versus what, you know what I mean? And
absolutely.
So understanding how to plant those right seeds and do those things,
and let it grow,
make a huge, huge difference.
Yeah.
And so like, that's kind of how I think about it. It's like, yeah, I fucked up, but this is what I'm willing to do when I do fuck up. Instead of being like, I fucked up and then just kind of like, trying to be all hard and like act like, no, like I'm not perfect and I do things. And so I live in that space a lot too. And I think even in my relationship, like sometimes I'd be like, sorry, honey, like come up and then literally grovel and say like, I messed up. And I think even in that, it's like, it's a selfish thing, but it's also a selfless thing. It's like, I need to make you feel better so I can feel better, but I really care if you feel better.
Yeah.
So I think distinguishing
it means something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And, I guess I should ask this too, because I was doing a quick scan of myself because, before I start holding people accountable and having expectations, I kind of always reflect within.
Yep.
That's just the type of person that I am. So as I'm thinking about this question that I want to ask you, I quickly scanned myself really quick. But is there someone right now in your life that you've not forgiven?
Yeah, there is. And I think the reason that is because I'm unclear where I stand. And they upset me, but I don't know if they know they upset me. And so I think I got to find my way to understanding how to bring that issue to the forefront.
Yeah.
That person it's not in malice. Know? I don't think that person knows.
Oh, wow. Because that's not fair either.
It's not.
Yeah.
But also, I need to have the energy in order to deal with it, in a loving way.
Yeah.
And in an intentional way.
Be in the right space.
So sometimes forgiveness doesn't need to be done swiftly, but I do think it needs to be done thoughtfully. And I haven't had the energy to do that yet. One, because I'm finding ways to fill myself up by just all the stress and all the things we're going through in life, which you talk about. And it's not, like I said, I'm not mad. I'm just hurt. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And they hurt me, but I also don't know if they intended to hurt. So it's like, I need to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know like
what about
Shay
you?
And I are very much, we talk about just who we are and our faith. And, we're both believers, and being a believer, it talks about the power of forgiveness. Like for me, I just being rooted in my faith, and, I do take it very seriously. And I just remember watching the movie, was it called The Blood of Christ? Is that Passion of Christ?
Passion of Christ.
Passion of Christ. And man, I watched that movie and I sobbed forever just because it was something that hit home to me. But I just thought about someone who forgave and things happened that was just beyond your expectation. So when I think about if that person can forgive, so can I.
Yeah.
So that's just who I am. And, that makes up Tania or Sweet Tea as it relates to, how I think and how I behave. But I just think that it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Like think about how much power you have in your hands to be able to forgive.
Yeah.
Like it's not something that is small. I think situations kind of dictate the level of impact that a situation can have. But I think what's more relevant is you think about, I always say the difference between like intent, impact, because sometimes there's no intentionality, but yet the impact is one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, I'm going to go back though and put some pressure on you because you know that I love you, but I do think that, you're busy, you got a lot of stuff going on. And yes, you want to be very thoughtful about how you approach, but I do think because we started off this episode talking about how life is just so unpredictable and tomorrow isn't promised to us. You would, God forbid, something happens to that person who don't even know that they hurt you. That's just not the space that you want to be in. So I do think it's helpful for you to have that conversation sooner than later to just say, hey, I don't know if you know this, but this is what happened. And this is how it made me feel. And I'm not looking for you to say anything. I'm just looking for you to listen so that you can understand how I feel.
Yeah.
I think that you owe it to yourself and you owe it to that person because that person may do it again.
Yeah.
And or they may do it to you, they may do it to someone else, whatever it is, that if you don't address a behavior, then what you think happens, it repeats itself.
That's true.
And it becomes a pattern of something that may not be great. So I do think that it's time. And look, I'm being used, okay?
I love it.
But I do think it's time for you to have that conversation so that you can get to a point of where you need to be.
And I received that. I also think, I don't know if I want this person in my life.
They don't have to be, but I think you still.
But to my point, sometimes forgiveness, you don't have to have the conversation. You're forgiving in your heart. You're forgiving, and it's like,
I agree.
It's not something that it's not a one-time thing. It's kind of like the last straw, right? So I think that's more context. It's like,
it's more context. For sure.
So yeah, I don't know. And I'm going to hope and pray nothing happens. But I have had that conversation with myself to say like, I don't wish bad things on people, but
Yeah.
I do receive what you're saying. And I'm going to really, really dig deep and
That's
figure
deep
out
work.
how I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
But that's just the true, honest, transparent how I'm feeling at the moment.
Yeah.
And I haven't had to sit with it because I had to think about if there was someone that I needed to forgive.
You said two things that I think was very profound that I want to go back and talk a little bit more about.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about how when you forgive someone, that doesn't mean they need to continue to be in your life. That's one. So I'll go back to that.
Right.
But I think what you said that was even more profound was that forgiveness is like doing that grunt work, right? Like depending on how badly you were hurt, it's not easy. And sometimes it does take time. And you guys know where I'm going with this. I think kind of go to this every episode is that there are times where you may have a hard time finding the power to forgive on your own.
Yeah.
And I do think that lends itself to being able to get help with a third neutral party. And maybe it's a therapist, it's a counselor, it's a trusted resource, but it's someone outside of yourself that you can go and get help with to figure out how to even start with the forgiveness.
Right. And maybe there's like more work I need to do, right? Because there's something there that's blocking it to saying like, I need to resolve this right away. Like, and I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid that there's more work that I need to do. Cause like I'm a lifelong learner when it comes to stuff like this and I do care. But I don't care to be treated in the way I've been treated by this person consistently for years. And I think it's part of the issue is me not addressing it in the moment and letting, like you said, they could do it again.
Do you know what I said?
So that's
that
where
word. You remember that word I said because I use it in business too?
What?
When I say when someone does something or you need to address the behavior in what? It's 2 words. In blank. In real
time.
Exactly.
In real time.
So when someone hurts you, don't let it sit. Don't let it marinate.
Yeah.
Address the behavior in real time. So that way you can start to take the corrective action that's needed to get past it. But real time is something that kind of need to remember.
The forgiveness in this instance in which you're coaching me on it lies with me, right? Like the forgiveness, I have to be the one to, because like I said, I don't know if that person knows.
Yeah.
So the forgiveness is for me at this moment because that person may not even know that they're
Starts
the ones
with
I need to
you.
forgive. Yeah.
And that's the grunt work.
Yeah,
that's the
that's the
real
grunt
work.
work.
That's that grittiness that I know you have inside of you. And that grit work is like, going back to his analogy, Queen, is like taking a shovel. You ever shovels hard snow that's been wet?
Unfortunately, yes. That's why I don't love
like backbreaking type work
in the Northeast.
Like that shovel is
that's why I don't live here anymore.
If you want to think about, you ever want to know if you got lower, because I think it's also a combination of like you're having a strong back, but if you having a strong back, you gotta have a strong core. Those two things go hand in hand.
Correct.
So if you ever want to do some real core, check your core work. I'm not talking about planks and crunches. You want to talk about some real core work, go get a shovel and shovel some wet, heavy snow.
Right.
That will remind you it'll tell you right then and there if that core is strong. But I use it as an analogy because when you're trying to forgive, that's what it feels like. It's hard. It's heavy. It hurts your lower back. It kills your abs. Like
so good.
It's gut wrenching.
So good.
And you have to be willing to do that because look, I don't know about you, but it's priceless.
Yeah.
When you can be able to move on, let go, heal, and look towards the future, it's just something that you can't even articulate into words.
Yeah. I mean, and I go back to what you said about just our faith. Like, I think about God's love. Like, think about all the things that we do every day, all day, that he doesn't agree with. Like, and his forgiveness. Mm-hmm. That's how we're still able to go on, to live, to thrive. Like, when you think about Black people in general and all that we've been through in the world, and how we've evolved as a people, how the world sees us, like, we constantly have to forgive every day.
Yeah. It's like an expectation.
That is that's what I think about God's love is like, he's always going to forgive us. And so I don't have the luxury to not forgive. So like you said, like what you're coaching me on, it's like, I know I got to forgive and I'm going to do that. And I have to think, what would Jesus do? What would God do? Like, what does that look like?
How it is get handled.
Because it's unconditional, right?
Yeah.
And so that's me coaching my human side and being like, get your stuff together.
Get your ish together.
Yeah, get your ish together. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to go back to before we close is knowing that, okay, let's say you did the work, you stepped to the plate, you said, okay, I'm gonna do this hard stuff. I'm gonna forgive. Then now it's time to make the decision what to do with this person that has hurt you. Do you want to move on? Do you want to let that person back into your space? Do you want that person to be back in your circle? Want that person to be back in your life? Or should I cut that person off? And I do think that, because I've done this for sure when there was a certain person in my life, just a girlfriend, and we just went through a lot. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna forgive this person because that's just who I am. That's the type of person I want to be.
Yeah.
So yes, I forgive you, but that don't mean I'm gonna hang out with you.
Yeah.
Like, we're not cool. And you have now been removed from my circle of trust because I forgave you, but I'm not letting you back in.
You haven't forgotten.
Right.
You haven't forgotten. And you don't want it to happen again. You're protecting yourself.
Yeah. It's like, you don't deserve to be in that space, but I forgive you.
Yeah.
And I have moved past it.
Yeah.
And I moved on, but you're not going to get the opportunity to hurt me again.
Yeah.
I see you. I'll say hello. If you ever need me, I'm here for you. If you go through a tough time, I'll be the first person at your door to make sure that you're okay, because that's the love that I believe that's inside of me that I should give. But I'm not going to let you back into my space ever again.
Yeah.
Like, you don't deserve that opportunity. I do think it's okay, as you mentioned, Shay. That's why I said it was profound, is because sometimes people have this misconception that to forgive means that that person goes back to being like, shit's normal again.
Yeah. Or you can't keep hurting me. And even just because we forgive each other or forgive doesn't mean you are allowed back in to continue to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And so I like what you said there, is like, that makes so much sense to me. And it's also giving me clarity right now. But it's like, maybe you need to work harder. Maybe you need to prove that. And so even though the door is shut, like you say, but sometimes people don't work hard enough to get back in someone's life. So it's almost like easier to just let it go. I've seen instances where people have, hurt someone and really worked on themselves and really like did what they needed to do to get back in that person's life. And I think, again, love is an action. And so
it's an action word.
If you do things, and like I said, I'm going to be the first to admit that I'm wrong, and I'm going to work to get back, especially if I love you.
Yeah.
So there are things you can do. I think, why not try?
Yeah. So listen, tippers, if you are listening to the sound of my voice, or if you're looking at YouTube or you are gazing into the screen and you're looking at my face, I am telling you right now is the time to forgive. So if there is someone in your life that has hurt you, has done something to you, and you're at a space of you're done, take the time right now before it's too late to forgive that person. You're going to feel better. You're going to be blessed for it. You're going to be healed, and you're going to be able to move forward. So thank you, as always, for continuing to check out Tipping the Scales wherever you get your podcasts. And we appreciate just continuing on this journey with you.
All right. See you guys next week.
Bye.
Later.